Welcome to the Flynn Brothers podcast. I'm John.
And I'm Jimmy. Today's big idea, seeking happiness on Hollywood Boulevard.
We talk about our recent trip to Hollywood's oldest and our favorite restaurant, the Musso Frank Grill.
Later, we spent a whole Friday night walking along Hollywood Boulevard so you don't have to. And we'll tell you all about its sleazy charms.
Finally, we name other tourist attractions and debate whether they live up to the hype or fall short.
Yeah, it's all coming up. But first, here's the Solons.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. 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 Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Well, we had ourselves a Friday night recently where we didn't have much going on, and like that Rebecca Black song, God, I can't even quote it. I don't even know a line from it.
You gotta get down.
Gotta get down. We were thinking we gotta get down on Friday, and we sort of. It had been a while since we had a good old fashioned night on the town, hadn't it?
It had, and as brothers, you have to sort of replenish the bond with
Yes.
these sorts of evenings.
So we wanted a good old fashioned night out on the town, and we thought of all the places we should go to Hollywood Boulevard, because we've been wanting to kind of do sort of a Hollywood Boulevard examination analysis on the podcast. And we felt, hey, two birds with one stone. We'll live it up and, kind of collect some data that we can share with our listeners.
Yeah, I'd say that Hollywood Boulevard is one of the more idealized streets in American culture, but when you actually get there, there's a pretty gritty reality that is a bit jarring, but it's not without its charms.
Before we get to that gritty reality, we need to start with our favorite part of Hollywood Boulevard, our favorite restaurant in the entire world. It is Hollywood's oldest restaurant, the Musso Frank Grill, a place we have been many, many times. It's our favorite going out to a nice restaurant, and it's just spectacular. Isn't it your favorite restaurant as well?
Of course, it's a special occasion restaurant. You feel better when you're in there. You
Yes.
put on nicer clothes. You don't have to. They'll seat you. They'll let you in. But it's almost like going to church. Sure, they'll let you in if you're wearing a T-shirt, but, get a collar.
Yes, yes.
Put on some slacks.
You're in God's house,
Yeah.
show a little respect. Well, we had, as it happened, we did a good favor to a good friend of ours, and he gave us a $100 gift card to Musso and Frank's. And, as listeners know, I recently got engaged, and my fiance was telling me how she got a nice gift for her maid of honor and this nice presentation asking her to be her maid of honor and stuff. And I was like, boy, I got to do that for my best man, my bro. And so I thought, we should have a best man dinner. We'll take the gift card. We'll go to our favorite restaurant, Musso and Frank's, and we'll live it up. How did you feel when I first told you we'd be going to Musso's for a best man dinner?
Overjoyed, particularly with the knowledge that the gift card would be in tow, because Musso and Frank, it's a place that you don't want to do any half measures there.
Right,
you want
right.
to leave absolutely full, absolutely satiated. But in order to accomplish that goal, you typically have to spend a decent amount of money. So if you got somebody footing at least part of the bill, then you're doing pretty good.
It's nice. And, I'm a man who has no qualms, no issues picking up a tab. You historically have been a little more alligator armed when the check comes to the table. But I told you, you're my best man. It's the best man dinner. We're going out to Musso and Frank's.
If I may, I think it's an ego play on your part.
Sure.
You like being, oh, hey, no, put your wallets away. Don't anybody, please don't. If we go out to dinner with our parents and our parents are obviously going to be paying for the dinner, my brother makes a show of reaching for his wallet and looking put out, aggrieved when our parents say, no, obviously you don't have to pay for this. So, I pay for things. I pay for my fair share.
Absolutely.
I won't be called cheap on the podcast.
Alligator
like
arms,
Carlos.
yeah. Well, Well, we'll let the credit card statements do the talking for us. But, we were going to Musso's. We always usually have a reservation. We always know we're going months in advance for a birthday, something like that. But this was a little more spur of the moment. We kind of didn't know we were going to do it till the week of. And I looked online, couldn't make a reservation. So I was like, you know what? They got a nice grill counter there at the Musso Frank Grill. For those who have never been, it's a very old restaurant. Formal, sort of Italian, French, just an old school American restaurant. And they got this beautiful, very, very old grill that is kind of the centerpiece of the restaurant. There's a counter you can sit at and watch the, the maestro, the grill master, grill the steaks. And you usually don't need a reservation for the grill counter. So we were thinking, let's roll the dice. Let's show up at 5 o'clock. And we did. We showed up at 5 o'clock right when it opens. And to our delight, the grill counter was pretty much empty. And we go up to the maitre d' there. Everyone, of course, the wait staff at Musso and Frank, they're top class. And we asked the maitre d', he saw the empty grill counter. We said, hey, is it cool if we grab a couple seats at the counter? And the maitre d' said, of course, gentlemen, we'd love to have you.
Yeah.
That's what you want to hear when you walk into a restaurant, right?
That's right. You feel very welcomed. And to set the scene a little bit, there are these wood-paneled walls. There's a wallpaper that looks as though it has been there for easily 100 years.
And it has been.
Yes. The grill is piping hot, absolutely piping hot, with these red and white charcoal briquettes that are just crackling and popping as these beautiful cuts of steak are hitting the grill. We're seated at this counter. You feel like $1 million.
And to accentuate that feeling, we immediately ordered a couple of stiff cocktails, Musso and Frank, known for their great bar. And you're an old-fashioned man. I'm a gin martini man. What do you like about the old-fashioned?
Oh, well, Don Draper famously ordered it many times on Mad Men, and that was, I would say, the inspiration before me ordering it the very first time that I did. And I like it because, it's still boozy, but in comparison to the gin martini.
There you go.
It's been a long day. Here we go. The gin martini, I feel like there's a little bit more craftsmanship. There's a little bit more blunting of the whiskey flavor. And whiskey itself, I feel, has more of a complex flavor profile as opposed to gin or vodka in the martini, which I find to be a bit overpowering. But
I like the gin martini. It's stiff as a board. You got the vermouth. I don't like olives. I don't like brininess, so I like the lemon twist with it. But we got our drinks. It was wonderful. We were looking over the appetizers, and the waiter came over, and he was very nice to us and, said, take your time, gentlemen. And, we were kind of looking over the appetizers. They had their usual fare, escargot and steak tartare, and these are all well and good. But none of us was really leaping out to us. And sometimes when we go to a restaurant, I'll do this with my fiance, we'll do this with our family. If you don't really like the appetizer, you kind of start looking at that pasta menu because we're Italian and we're like, maybe a pasta as a starter might be kind of nice,
The menu is suggestion. You can order whatever you want, whenever you want it.
And what were we seeing on that pasta menu that was kind of tickling us?
There's a very famous Alfredo that they make at Musso and Frank, but the dish that really caught our eye was a gorgonzola gnocchi.
Yeah, so you've never had it, gnocchi, pillowy, delicious pasta, and the gorgonzola cream sauce that it came with it was tempting. It's a dish we've had before. It was a great restaurant in Sacramento, Biba, that used to make it. So we were like, let's go with the gorgonzola gnocchi. And when we ordered it as the starter, the waiter made sort of a face, didn't he?
It was only can be compared to sort of a Robert De Niro face, the
sort of like kind of a who you talking to.
Yeah, sort of a frown almost, like the okay, nice. Yes, I wasn't expecting that, but I respect the choice. That was sort of the subtext
and
there.
So we said, bring us the pasta, and he started bringing that. As we're waiting for the pasta, we're watching the maestro on the grill. He's flipping filet mignon, he's flipping ribeyes, he's got salmon on there, he's got pork chops. You have all these different proteins, all got to be cooked to different specifications, all have different cook times. Different parts of the grill are hotter than other parts of the grill. It was really like watching a meat or a protein ballet, wasn't it? What was it like for you watching that meat maestro?
I think the other component was there is a very heavy sonic component to it. He was clicking the tongs. He would aggressively grip the meat, look at it, slap it on the grill, flap it this way and flop it the other. It was just this almost disrespectful treatment of the meat, but it was like you needed to be rough with the meat was the way to treat it. You had to make confident moves. This guy was the height of confidence, and then he was also in between flipping stuff. He'd take a brief moment and he'd be just chugging a NOS energy drink.
Which you got. He's gonna work till 11 o'clock. You got 30 steaks sometimes at a time.
And
you
they come out.
Dialed in.
They come out from the kitchen pre-seasoned.
Yes.
His job is solely grilling.
He grills
steaks.
them, and then after he grills them, he puts them on other plates that are ready. Lets them rest, of course, before they go out. Just a beautiful system they have at Musso and Frank's. For dinner, we went with a medium rare ribeye, nice and thick, juicy. We also got a veal schnitzel, they call it. It's more like a Milanese. It's lightly breaded and fried, topped with arugula, prosciutto, capers, and shaved Parmesan. Absolutely delicious. We got a side of grilled broccolini with some lovely hollandaise sauce. Hollandaise really makes vegetables taste better, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just butter saucified.
With egg yolks. And then the piece de resistance, perhaps the greatest thing Musso and Frank makes, is this side dish, Lyonnaise potatoes. If you've never had Lyonnaise potatoes, they're kind of like lightly, maybe they parboil them, and then they basically put them in a cast iron pan with caramelized onions and butter and just let them kind of like shallow fry in the butter slowly and for a long time. And they come out, and it's like the softest, greatest French fries, hash brown, baked potato hybrid, and the caramelized onions. It is so just unbelievable. If you ever go to Musso and Frank's, or if you ever have the option of getting Lyonnaise potatoes, maybe you got to go to France. It is truly one of the greatest potato preparations I've had in my entire life.
Yeah, I don't really know much else what they're doing in Lyon, but this potato preparation makes me curious.
We, our producer Will, he's a big fan of wine. He'll appreciate this. We, with dinner, we finished off our stiff cocktails, and we thought, got a steak coming. A lovely glass of a Syrah might be a nice pairing with that steak, and he's given his nod of approval. Knowledgeable wine drinker that he is. And so we got a couple glasses, lovely Syrah, paired beautifully with the ribeye. You were especially highlighting the fact that they played and paired very well together. You don't always get that with food, but you were very appreciative.
I think Musso and Frank allows you to have these epiphanies where you're tasting things that are at the absolute height of execution. The steak was a beautiful cut of meat, perfectly butchered, perfectly grilled, perfectly seasoned, paired with a wine that was a perfect pairing for it. And so when you have something that's so perfect, you understand why people value these sorts of wine and meat type pairings. And I think another epiphany that I've had is I had duck confit, which is their Sunday special there, which is a dish that I had never really had before, and it blew me away. Every single time I go to Musso and Frank, there is a experience that blows me away with how delicious it is.
It's truly incredible every time you go. There are these epiphanies, these revelations you have. And one of the great ones, I have it every time I eat there because I always get the same dessert. We split the 1919 Sundae. Musso and Frank famously opened in 1919, so it's their over 100-year-old recipe for this Sundae. It's delicious, perfectly textured vanilla ice cream. It comes with caramel, caramelized bananas, and peanut brittle. It's one of those rare sundaes with no chocolate. Usually with a sundae, you get chocolate fudge, you get the nuts, you get the whipped cream, the cherry. No. This is such a unique, interesting take on a sundae. And it's rich. It somehow feels light, though, especially we basically were eating for a half hour straight between the steak, between the veal, the potatoes, the broccoli. There was very minimal talking. It was just eating and drinking for about a half hour straight. And then the sundae came, and it somehow felt a little light, didn't it?
It does. I think it's the lack of chocolate. It's also the banana. It's a beautiful take on the banana that they do there. And it does feel like you're going back in time. They hadn't quite figured out how to ship chocolate or something to that effect is the reason why it has this sort of limitation on it. But yeah, again, both the waiter and the busboy commented upon how much and how fast my brother and I ate. And I think ironically, for two guys who have a podcast, we don't really talk very much. We, had a little bit of back and forth before the food came, but once the food comes, we really get down to business. We don't really mess around. And I know one other thing that we perhaps should address, we got the veal schnitzel. I think some people,
Right,
may look their nose
right,
up, may
right,
wag a finger, especially
right.
at us men who have offered nuanced take upon veganisms
It's
and
true.
vegetarianism,
Yeah.
and it's the only place really where we get veal
Once a
and,
year. Once a year. It's
look.
one of those things that we're happy to justify this pleasure, but yes, it's a once a year sort of, hey, sorry for this, but we're living it up.
It's too delicious to pass up.
And as we were kind of reflecting, we were talking about this. Really, what makes Musso and Frank's great, and what makes any iconic Los Angeles restaurant great, is when you go there, you have to feel like you're a movie star. I think that is the promise of a great restaurant in Los Angeles. You need to feel like you are a movie star going out to eat. And Musso and Frank, when we show up, the maitre d' says, "Of course, gentlemen, we'd love to have you." That's how a movie star gets talked to when they're going into a restaurant.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you there.
Yeah.
Not take a seat anywhere. Hey, I'll be with you in a minute. No. You were treated, you were treated so well. And I think it's true of many restaurants in Los Angeles, but I would say it is most true in our experience of going to the Musso and Frank Grill.
In addition, it is perhaps the best example of, I think, what Hollywood Boulevard offers is that you are guaranteed to know that famous people that you have heard of and that you have seen on TV have been where you are. There, that Jackie Gleason has been in there. That the Rolling Stones eat there. That Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald have, killed times while waiting to hear back from studios. That this has happened.
Right.
And so you can feel sort of the ghosts echoing around there, and it's a transportative experience because you walk into Musso and you're probably there at least an hour. Luckily, if you're lucky, you're there 2, maybe even close to 3.
We
if
were
you're
there
really stretching
too,
it
I'd
out.
say, yeah.
And you sort of forget that there is a world outside of those walls.
But then, of course, you eventually have to exit those walls and stumble onto the sleazy reality of Hollywood Boulevard, which we will discuss after the break. So there we were, guts full and heads spinning deliriously after a wonderful meal. We stumble onto glorious Hollywood Boulevard. For those who have never been to Hollywood Boulevard, you know sort of about the Walk of Fame and maybe some of the iconic places, and we'll get to those in a sec. But before we do that, I think it behooves us to just sort of tell listeners who know or maybe don't know what most of Hollywood Boulevard is. And we kind of noticed some patterns as we were walking around all Friday night. We were collecting data, as it were. And here's most of Hollywood Boulevard. Most of it, I would say, is souvenir shops, right? I think that is the big draw, is you get an I Heart LA t-shirt, you get some sort of trinket. We were laughing that, there's people from all over the world, from Europe to Asia. And we would just joke that, man, there's some people who spend thousands of dollars flying here from halfway across the world just to go to a souvenir shop and buy a little keychain that says sarcastic comment loading.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like it's not all Hollywood stuff. There is a
Right.
ton of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that says like Cali or California.
Right.
It's very much pitching that sort of idealized version of the street. And meanwhile, there's a lot of just cheap garbage
Yes.
that is being hawked.
Landfill
Yeah.
crap. Yeah.
Yes, it is not very glamorous. It's almost like a open air. It feels like a strip mall. Kind
Yes,
of like a very
yes.
long strip mall.
Yes.
Upon just sort of first look at it. I mean, there's also a fair amount of like cheap bars.
Right.
There's chain restaurants. There's weird experiences that you can have. You could do something that's like 5D visual experience.
Right, yes. Let's talk about some of these experiences. So, yeah, there's like these 5D experiences where you can like watch a movie, get jostled around, smell something gross, get something sprayed in your face. And the hilarious irony is the people working at these places always look super bored. They
Yeah.
don't look like they're getting to do the 5D experience. They have had all the wonderment just stripped away from them slowly. But yeah, you really don't see these places anywhere else, do you?
No, it is odd to even consider going to one. You know, it's like the whole point is to be on the Boulevard that you've famously heard of, not inside of some fly-by-night entertainment experience. There's also a ton of vape and smoke shops. Is a pretty prevalent thing, and there's a very lenient policy, shall we say, towards the outdoor consumption of certain controlled substances.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it's kind of their California dream to, you know, whether their country has a ban on marijuana or their state has a ban on marijuana. I'm going to come to California. I'm going to go to a smoke shop or a vape shop. I'm going to buy a joint or whatever else and just walk along Hollywood Boulevard. And that's going to be kind of my cool California vacation. And I think all the vape and smoke shops kind of appeal to that. The one thing I'm curious about, there were so many like New York style pizza by the slice places. Why do you think on Hollywood Boulevard there are so many pizza by the slice places?
I think people conflate. They think it's going to be Times Square.
Right.
Of Los Angeles.
Which it is a little bit, right?
It is
a little bit.
It is the equivalent, I would say, but Times Square is even more of a sensory overload because you're in this canyon of lit up skyscrapers where most of Hollywood Boulevard is about 1 to 2 stories. And then there's a few like really old cool hotels or stuff that's been there like 100 years, some apartment buildings as well. So there's this very interesting mix of about 100 years of different types of buildings there. There's this very new construction that house these sort of fly-by-night businesses and these trendy chain restaurants. We saw Wahlburgers there. Which is the first time
there
I've
was
seen that.
there was a Wahlburgers there. There was this very haunting image of this very nice-looking, like kind of early 30s, mid-30s woman who was just alone in an empty Wahlburgers eating her meal. And it was just, there are so many images like that on Hollywood Boulevard where you're like, boy, there really is a story behind this, isn't there?
Yeah, it was actually something that struck me is it's not a terrible place to be solo on Hollywood Boulevard. You are surrounded by people. And Musso and Frank, there was a very like well put together petite woman who sat at the grill counter next to us. She ordered a huge steak and creamed spinach, and it was okay. Like it wasn't strange or odd, or it was
Live it up.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where I think you can walk around Hollywood Boulevard alone. There's a lot of people watching potential.
Have you ever been tempted to go to like the Ripley's Believe It or Not or the Madame Tussauds Wax Museum? Has there ever been a part of you where, like, you know, you'll hear about New Yorkers, I've never been to the Statue of Liberty, I've never been to the Empire State Building, not that Ripley's and Madame Tussauds are the Statue of Liberty of Los Angeles, but have you ever been tempted? I mean, I'd say one over the other. I'd probably rather go to Madame Tussauds than Ripley's. I don't know, what is Ripley's? Just optical illusions and stuff?
I think it's historical oddities is what it's supposed to be. So there might be some like kind of cool, fun facts from history, or, you know, when I peered into it, it seemed actually as though they had a Madame Tussauds wax sculpture of like the tallest man to ever live.
You said Tussauds with the RD. Is it not Tussauds?
I'm American, you know. I'm not gonna let those French people tell me how to pronounce a business on Hollywood Boulevard. So I was a little bit intrigued there, but the Madame Tussauds, I think it would just be too weird. I don't have any desire to take a photo with one of the wax.
Well, you kind of get the free wax museum out front of the wax museum. They had a Marilyn Monroe, they had a Hulk, and the most uncanny Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson I'd ever seen in my entire life. My God, it was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's crazy how some of these wax figures are really realistic. Others, they're not even close. But some of these people you really can capture in wax.
Yes. They also had a Kobe Bryant, which I did not think it was Kobe Bryant, you know, R.I.P. But as I was looking at Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, I literally thought it was going to start moving.
Come alive.
So the hats off to Madame Tussauds Musso's
Yeah.
wax replica
They-
of Dwayne The Rock Johnson. They nailed it.
They had on Hollywood Boulevard an escape hotel. There were some people out front doing a shtick of some kind, even though there was no one there to witness it. You really got to stay in character in a lot of these experiences, quote unquote, on Hollywood Boulevard. But yeah, escape hotel. I assume an escape room, just multiple rooms. Is that the idea?
That's what it seems like to me. But you bring up something else. You do have to stay in character even as nobody is watching you. Also on Hollywood Boulevard, you're going to see a guy performing Michael Jackson's greatest hits and dancing while in his costume and doing a darn good job of it. But that's not something that you can kind of turn on and off depending on if people are around. You just sort of have to be doing it nonstop. Likewise, there's a Spider-Man, in the cheapest Spider-Man costume you can find, in a physique that we don't typically associate with Spider-Man. And it's like, it'd just be unbelievable to be like, let's spend $5 taking pictures with him. There's men with CDs that they're trying to hand to you, and you think, oh, it's a free CD. It is not a free CD. Do not take the CD. Frankly, if anyone's trying to sell you anything, you can't see them. You don't speak their language. You are not in the market for whatever they're offering.
I mean, can you imagine making a living that way? What do? I spend 10 hours a day on Hollywood Boulevard giving people blank or crazy CDs that they don't want, and I try to trick them into taking one, and then I tell them they got to pay me money. I mean, that's how you're making your living.
Well, I don't know. Maybe, this could be a side job. I don't know if you're pulling down enough dough from this. But yeah, maybe they're just really passionate about their music and they feel they should be fairly compensated for it.
We were, kind of dumping on the food on Hollywood Boulevard other than Musso and Frank's. I will say there were a couple pop-ups that look pretty good. There's always, of course, the bacon-wrapped hot dogs that the street vendors are doing. Those are always good, albeit, will roil your guts.
Yeah.
But I did see some really good-looking Jamaican barbecue, like jerk chicken and stuff like that. And if our guts weren't so taut from our experience at Musso and Frank's, we're walking by. It looked really good, and the guy was like, "Hey, come try some." And we really wanted to, but next time we go to Hollywood Boulevard, we'll get some.
Yeah, they also had some Nigerian food that I saw, and then of course there's the ubiquitous Al Pastor taco stands.
Yes.
That there was one of those as well.
All right, let's talk about the iconic places on Hollywood Boulevard. So we got to talk about the sidewalk, the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It's basically black, concrete. It's a little more shiny.
Granite, kind of. It has a speckled look to it, like a black marble countertop.
And then you got kind of these pinkish purple stars everyone's seen for all the stars through Hollywood's history. It's kind of cool, but also a little melancholy as you're walking along the street and you're kind of going through the ghosts of film and television and music's past. You're seeing controversial names for some people. You're seeing, characters from your childhood. You're seeing people who died tragically. You're seeing people who lived full lives. And it's funny. It really adds just, of course, such a gravity to Hollywood Boulevard. You really wonder, what would Hollywood Boulevard be without the Walk of Fame?
No. It's all about the Walk of Fame. If the Walk of Fame isn't there, it's just another sleazy street that there's really no reason to visit. I think the Walk of Fame, it is just, if you are somebody who is a fan of the film and television and entertainment industry in general, it's just a cool place to reminisce. I mean, it's akin to walking through a graveyard almost. There are certainly some people who are still alive, or there's people who, their peak is long past. And so, for instance, Arnold Schwarzenegger obviously has a star on the Walk of Fame, and you see that and you're just like, man, Arnold, he really used to be impressive, really used to be somebody. And so you get these floods of memories that wouldn't really be jogged by anything else. And there's also this weird inclination, I feel like, when you see, there's Groucho Marx's star. It's like, we got to stop for a second and look at Groucho Marx's star. We have to give him the respect that he deserves. Right. You are almost like walking on their gravestone. It has
true.
that feel.
It's true. I think you get a similar feel from when you go to Grauman's Chinese Theater and there's the handprints and the footprints in cement. You know, Harrison Ford, Meryl Streep. You know, you could name any celebrity. They pretty much got him there. And it's fun, you know, put your shoes in where those footprints are and feel like you're a part of history. The one funny thing, you know, Grauman's Chinese Theater has hosted all these premieres, still does even to this day. And then right next door, they have the, like, I think it's the TCL Grauman, like, AMC.
Yes, it's the
theaters.
expansion. Yeah,
And it's just like this completely new, completely modern, like super insanely overpriced movies next to this very historic venue. It kind of just summarizes Hollywood Boulevard, just like new, flashy, combined with old and historic, right?
Yeah. I think that this is one of the coolest places to go. I mean, you just have, again, like I said with Musso, the other thing about all of those stars is that you know that at one point this celebrity was at this exact spot.
Yes.
For one moment. And, you know, unless they were obviously sort of retroactively put in, but anyone who's still alive or, you know, sort of in the recent past, the last sort of 60 years, you can feel confident that they were there. And again, is some sort of magic to occupying a space that somebody you admire, or you've seen on TV, or you've heard their records, or you've seen them in films, and knowing that person stood right here.
There's a mall on Hollywood Boulevard that used to be called Hollywood and Highland. They have since changed the name to the Ovation Hollywood. They went under reconstruction, I think, kind of during COVID, and then they finished it a few years ago. It used to house at this mall these sets. I don't know if they were from this exact movie or kind of based on them, but the D.W. Griffith movie Intolerance from the early part of the 20th century, which featured these sets of Babylon, right?
Yeah.
Ancient Babylon.
So the sets were there. They actually filmed the movie there, which is incredible to think of a movie set existing on Hollywood Boulevard. And they were so, you know, intricate and huge that they just sort of left them there to rot into ruin. And then eventually they crumbled and tore them down and built sort of the what we see there today, and some things sort of in the interim. But I think that's another sort of interesting feature of Hollywood Boulevard, again, is that, you know, back in the day, this is where like studios were. This is where a lot of the action was taking place.
Right.
And that's not really the case anymore. But again, there's these ghosts, there's these echoes, there's this feeling of there was something significant that happened here.
And I think you maybe mentioned the sets are still there. They've taken down the Babylon sets.
Yes.
Those are no longer.
These
at the
are
mall
just
today.
these
Yes,
are
yes, yes.
recreations, you know, as an homage to them.
Yeah. So the yeah, the nice thing about the mall is it does have a lovely view of the Hollywood sign. So I think, honestly, like when you think about Hollywood Boulevard, kind of the best part of it is like, don't go in anywhere. Just kind of walk along it, look at the stars, do all the free stuff. Get the free view of the Hollywood sign, walk through the mall. Like, don't stop for the CDs, don't stop for the picture of Spider-Man. Just kind of breeze through and window shop and just kind of look and absorb the sights and sounds. And that's what we usually do when we're down there, and it was very, very fun. Couple of last iconic places. There is the Roosevelt Hotel, and there's a restaurant at the bottom of the Roosevelt Hotel that apparently is pretty good. I always think this is so funny, though. Obviously, everyone who's eating there does not stay at the Roosevelt Hotel. Don't you just find it odd when people go to a hotel to have dinner?
Well,
like, don't you find that? Like, can you imagine going to a hotel to have dinner and you don't stay at the hotel? I always just find that so odd, don't you?
well, if the restaurant's good, you know, you don't necessarily have to. It's just like it's a huge lobby, a huge waiting room for the restaurant, I suppose.
I just feel like I would be very tempted to act as though I lived in the hotel and try to put it on room 205.
And the last name on that, it's Smith. No, it's not. Well,
I tried. Can't blame it. I'm going to a restaurant in a hotel I'm not staying at. I'm crazy. There's also the El Capitan Theater where they have a lot of the premieres for Disney films. And then Jimmy Kimmel Live is right next door. And I always find that funny, like the PAs or people who just work there every day and it's just their job. It's just kind of funny to imagine you go to work every day smack dab in the middle of Hollywood Boulevard. Isn't that such an odd thing?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's totally hectic. And luckily there's, you know, the back way to get into it. So you're not, having to walk past Michael Jackson and Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I think, you know, to the larger point, like I also would see people walking their dogs along Hollywood Boulevard, like Friday night when we were there. And again, it's just, would be so crazy imagining living not necessarily on Hollywood Boulevard in that area because you can't, but living kind of adjacent to it. I mean, you do now, but you're much, further east. But people who live so close to there, it just, I mean, you're trying to go for a jog or you're trying to walk your dog. It just would be so odd, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Hollywood Boulevard, if you don't live here, you may not know that it is like a very functional street.
Yes.
Most of it, like there's a lot of Hollywood Boulevard that is not the Hollywood Boulevard that people think of or that exists in the cultural imagination. It's just a street like any other street. There's a section near where I live where it's all Thai restaurants, which is not something that you would expect to find on Hollywood Boulevard. But that section, it's definitely, there's almost no reason to go there unless you're going either as a tourist because you need to check it off your list for visiting Los Angeles, or if you're a local and you are literally just like into people watching. I think that there is some really fascinating people watching that you can see there. It is also just neat to sometimes do the touristy thing in a city that you live in because so often, people live in places forever and they don't do the touristy thing that people travel halfway around the world to do. So, I would recommend going to it, but you have to have a different sort of set of experiences perhaps. If you're expecting it to be fancy, that's you go to a Rodeo Drive. If you want to like a big fancy stores, those types of things. But yeah, like as we said, there's obviously great Musso and Frank food, but yeah, go and do the things that are free and then probably eat somewhere that is outside. Like eat at one of the pop-up tents, or there's the Window, which makes great burgers that they have a location down there. So, do it cheap. Don't get suckered in.
Yes.
Don't do anything.
Or do it super expensive and go to Musso and Frank's.
Right.
Yeah, but you're saying go to Hollywood Boulevard.
I'm saying go to Hollywood Boulevard.
I agree. Go to Hollywood Boulevard, but don't go right now. Stick around. When we come back, we got John's brief history of Hollywood Boulevard. All right, it's that time. John's brief history of Hollywood Boulevard. Take it away, buddy.
Let's launch right in. It was first a dirt road named Prospect Avenue by its first owner, a man named John Bauer, who was a miner from the Sierra foothills who purchased it as a government grant.
Now, there still is a Prospect Avenue. It is down kind of in our neck of the woods. It's sort of the end of Hollywood Boulevard and turns into Hollywood Boulevard if you're traveling from east to west there.
The echoes of yesteryear. It becomes a street of sort of stately Victorian mansions, and then in the 20s and 30s, it's converted into the street that we sort of know today, where it's a beacon of the film and television industry. At one point, there were studios, talent agencies, many theaters and entertainment venues, all concentrated in this area. It was very much a hotbed of the industry.
It's a little sad with some of the, a lot of theaters on Hollywood Boulevard are still operational, but it kind of reminds you like of downtown Los Angeles, where there's gorgeous theaters and clearly buildings with historical significance that have kind of gone to ruin. And yeah, it is kind of sad when you see that.
It is really, because the film industry, is still going strong in some ways. Obviously, it's taken some big dips, but the one thing it really seems to struggle to support is these huge, glorious one-room theaters that used to be ubiquitous. And yeah, it's sort of sad to see that fade away. But here we are. They do have just stunning facades. The architecture on Hollywood Boulevard, when you're not looking at a cheap Wahoo bar or something like that, or a Wahlburger, it is a lot of great examples of Art Deco or Spanish colonial revival. You can, I think, as you're walking along the street, occasionally just be dumbstruck by the amount of detail and artistry that are in a lot of these buildings.
There's a little lilt of architectural appreciation in this edition of the brief history.
Yes,
isn't there?
I think that they're really fantastic, and one of the gems in the crown that is Hollywood Boulevard is the Egyptian Theater, which was home to the world's first movie premiere in 1922.
What film?
I did not get that.
Did not research. That would have been maybe my first question in the research, but that's okay. Hey, our research
I would
team,
have to
it was
imagine.
their week off, so
Listen.
you were held out.
Listen,
to dry.
1922. I don't think we have heard of the film.
Yeah,
that was
I
the
probably
that
wouldn't
was
know
the
too
premiere.
many.
It was the train, the
great train
the
robbery,
train that
let's say.
scared
All right,
everybody.
all right.
And there are hotels and apartment buildings that are built on the street, originally for stars to live closer to the studios.
This is around the same era, kind
Around
of
the same
20s
and 30s.
Okay, gotcha.
And there's a boom of construction in the 20s, all along the street there that are these theaters, entertainment venues, studios, all of this sort of stuff. That comes to an end with... What is the significant event at the end of the 20s?
I would guess the Great Depression.
Ding, ding, ding,
Hey,
you are
there you
correct.
go.
The Great Depression ends the construction boom, and there's sort of a steady decline from there. It's still popular, but slowly but surely it starts falling off. In the 1960s, they debut the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It is meant to sort of preserve the glamour and the history of the street, memorialize
That's
the
kind of
great
funny.
stars.
You'd think, looking at the stars, you'd almost think, a lot of them look very nice and well maintained, but you'd almost think they would have started before the 60s, don't you?
Yeah, especially because there's a lot of stars that are
That's right.
pre-60s.
Bugs Bunny, for instance.
Right, Batman. They got
Also, people who really existed
Yes,
as well.
yeah.
Yes. Bob Hope, for
that
instance.
is one of the funny things, though, about being on the street. Is you're like, oh, Bugs, like Bugs
Yeah,
is
hey,
an actual
Bugs,
guy.
yeah,
It's
he
like,
is
he
in a
lives up
way.
in Beverly Hills. He doesn't talk to people too much anymore. Ever since Daffy died, he hasn't been the same.
Right.
But a really the steep decline through the 60s and 70s. Much of the street falls into disrepair. It is designated a historic place in 1980 to try to save it, but again, there's this continued decline. There is the Northridge earthquake in 1994 that takes out a lot of these sort of derelict theaters that had been allowed to fall into disrepair.
Yeah.
The Egyptian is really damaged by this point. And then there is this call for restoration kind of after the 1994 Northridge earthquake. 96, American Cinematheque. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I've never known how to...
Tech?
Cinematheque. I've
That's-
always wanted. It's spelled Theque, so this almost is another French
Yeah.
pronunciation.
Yes.
We got to.
Our Francophile producer Will Slade bailing
Yeah,
us out
yeah.
here yet again. They purchased the Egyptian theater. How much do you think they spent? Don't look.
I didn't look. American Cinematheque bought the Egyptian theater in the 90s.
Yes.
Oh boy, $10 million.
You are overshooting it by 10 million times. They bought it for $1.
Wow.
It was in such bad shape. They spend
Wow.
$13 million about on a restoration.
Can of soda nowadays.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it would be something that you have to. You're buying it for $1, but you have to spend $13 million for it to be
Yeah,
habitable
fair enough.
again. $430 million is spent on that mall that you discussed, the Hollywood Highland Center, home of the Dolby Theater, the home of the Academy Awards, another famous thing that happens on Hollywood Boulevard. $5 million is spent to renovate the Chinese theater, Sid Grauman's Chinese theater.
Yeah.
And then Netflix purchases the Egyptian in 2023 and renovates it to look back as it did in the early
Wow.
20s.
How about that?
And they kind of keep it sort of under guard. Like, it's not...
Yes,
Whereas the Chinese theater,
yes.
you can walk up and you can see all of the handprints
Put your
throughout
hand
history.
next to Robert Downey Jr.'s.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. The Egyptian theater did have an air of heavy security
Yes.
and backup.
It's a place where I think they do a lot of their premieres, Netflix.
Yes,
and I
for
think sort of
sure.
you can sort of tell the story of the street with the Egyptian theater.
You can't have a bunch of vaping out of towners
Yeah.
getting their paws on Ted Sarandos.
No,
you gotta
no.
keep them back.
Yeah, they gotta
keep
stay
them back. Yeah.
But again, as I said, was saying, you could tell the story of the Egyptian, or the story of Hollywood Boulevard with the Egyptian theater. At first it's this very glamorous place to be, the world's first, history's being made, the center of the entertainment entertainment industry slowly but surely falls into decline until there's a, it's absolutely derelict and in disrepair. Sort of an indie kind of company is like, all right, let's get this back up on its feet. We're lovers of film. And then Netflix comes in, and, Netflix obviously very good in some ways for the film industry, but there's also maybe a bit feeling that they've hacked the algorithm in a way and are sort of pushing things for maybe more of a broad market, and there's less of this like history and glamour there. But at the same time, they're preserving it, so you got to give it up to them for that. Anyway, the last little fun fact that I found is that the Walk of Fame, how many new stars do you think they get every month?
Every month? Really?
Yeah.
A new star?
Yeah.
More than one every month?
Two new
every
stars
month.
every
oh,
month.
my goodness. I
So,
would have maybe guessed like 4 or 5 a year.
No,
That's crazy.
they're
Wow.
filling out the walk. They're filling it out.
How about
and,
that?
yeah.
Again, all the stuff where it started in the 60s and then like Hollywood Boulevard really hasn't kind of flourished until like the 90s. Like that's really surprising. You do get the sense when you're down there that there is this almost century-old appeal to it, and you get that with Musso's, and you get that with some of the buildings. But yeah, I think overall, given all the hardship, it's hung in there pretty well, I'd say.
Absolutely. I don't see it going anywhere. I mean, it was doing very brisk business. It was not like abandoned, or like there are certainly a fair amount of for lease signs on some of the buildings that aren't exactly in the heart of the entertainment district, but I think Hollywood Boulevard, it's going to be around for many, many, many more years to come.
I have a newfound appreciation, and in part due to your brief history. So well done.
How about
well
that?
done.
That's the point of this segment. Eh?
Yeah. Well, let's get the hell away from it as quick as possible. Let's go to our game. Our game for this evening. We are going to do a game. We're going to call it Live Up or Fall Short. And we're going to name, I jotted them down. I'll take the reins of this. Do these tourist attractions live up to the hype, or do they fall short? So I'll name some tourist attractions for you, and you can decide live up or fall short. Okay, these are all places we've been to. If you think of some, feel free to jot down, and you can fire a couple at me, lightning round style at the end if you'd like.
Will do.
Let's do the Hollywood Boulevard equivalent in New York City, Times Square. Does it live up or fall short?
I'd say it lives up. I would say it is more what you expect it to be.
Yes.
Whereas Hollywood Boulevard is a letdown in some ways, and then it's sort of redeemed by a closer examination. Times Square is exactly what you think it is going to be. Loud, tons of huge billboards, total sensory overload. It's got the Broadway theaters there, which is also pretty cool to see. So yeah, it's definitely quite touristy and absolutely a nightmare getting there and getting around when you're there. But when you're in the thick of it, you're like, wow, this is impressive. This could only in New York City could such a thing exist.
Would you want to freeze your ass off there on New Year's Eve?
I would not. That sounds truly like one of the worst things. I can't believe it is something that people do, really. The New Year's Eve celebration at Times Square, seeing the ball drop, hearing, Ryan Seacrest's voice echo off the skyscrapers, not for me. You?
Big planet we live on. Not for me, but there's 8 billion people, and surely there's a few thousand willing to freeze their tuchus off. Does it live up to the hype, or does it fall short? The Empire State Building.
This is another one that I think lives up.
Yes. My favorite part, other than the view, is the elevator ride you take up. It's like 100 floors or whatever. And just the building anticipation is awesome. And then I think you can't take the elevator at the very top. You get there, and there's maybe like 8 flights you have to climb to get to the very top. It's just a perfect, just the anticipation of that and kind of the countdown, and then you finally get up there. As someone who doesn't love heights, I love the Empire State Building.
It's great, man. It itself, too, is also an architectural marvel, as well as affording you the views of, one of the most beautifully constructed cities in all of the world.
Let's keep it in New York for one last one, the Statue of Liberty.
What is it? It falls short.
Lives up or falls short. The
yeah.
Statue of Liberty.
I'd say it falls a little short, maybe.
Oh, really? You take the boat ride there, right? You
guess.
kind of go around it.
You know,
and
you're right.
I'll say this though, to your point, is you take the boat ride, and that's pretty cool to see it up close. But then I think you got to pay extra money to get into her helmet, or what do you call it, her crown?
Crown.
And,
Helmet.
yeah, her helmet. And so I think that's a little bit. You feel like, oh
Yes.
man, I took the boat ride. I'm here, and what? Now I got to pay this to get up into the helmet or the crown. And yeah, maybe that's a little peeving. So it kind of toes the line, but I'd maybe lean toward falls short. I'd say.
Well,
maybe.
it is huge.
It is huge,
and it's made out
yes.
of what? Copper, bronze.
I think it's one or the other, and it's got copper, and then it's gone green over time, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. Thanks to the French, I guess.
Yeah.
Big French episode this time around. But yeah, I mean, it is pretty remarkable, and the fact that they just put it out there on the island.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool of
Maybe
the
it does
French.
live up. Who knows?
All right, we're going to move now to Washington, D.C. We've been here a few times. The Washington Monument, does it live up or fall short?
It is really tall.
All these things are just big and cool, aren't they?
Yeah. But I mean, come on, it's just it's just one
slab
a
of
slab of marble.
Phallic, isn't it?
Yeah, for Washington, we're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
making a large phallic pyramid.
You say falls short.
I think falls short.
Falls short. Yeah, I'd maybe agree. I like the big pool that is next to it there.
No,
that's
that's
kind of cool.
That's the Lincoln, isn't it? Lincoln
It's in
Memorial.
between them both, isn't it? Or isn't it in
Well,
between them
technically,
both?
but
It's
the
closer to
Lincoln,
Lincoln,
yes.
Will's saying. Well, that's a good thing because that's our next one. The Lincoln Memorial, does it live up or fall short?
The Lincoln one lives up.
I'd say so, too. Yes, I'd
the
say so.
pool, it looks impressive from a distance. You get right up close to it. It's just water like anywhere else. But you go up into, it's like a temple to a Greek god, but instead it is this just great man. You can see the careworn creases on his face from the Civil War. You can think of all of the many decisions that he had to make, all of the great things that he had done, and it does make you feel proud to be an American when you're at the Lincoln Memorial.
I think it lives up. It's a good one. Last one. Oh, goodness. I put the Washington Monument twice in the notes. I think I meant to write the U.S. Capitol. The U.S. Capitol. Does not live up or fall short.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really get a very good look at it when I was there on January 6th. No,
Zing,
whoa,
da-dunch,
all right,
just some fun.
Just some fun, folks. We're not that type of podcast. It is impressive. However, I will say this: the California State Capitol that we got down home in good old Sacramento is about as impressive as the U.S. Capitol. So, in terms of Capitol buildings, you got to work pretty hard to impress old John Flynn.
I will say this, when I went, our whole family, I just graduated 8th grade, and we knew a fellow who worked there at the U.S. Capitol, and he took us down into the underground tunnel that I think can you go underground the Capitol and take you to the different chambers and stuff, and that was very cool. However, from the outside, just looking at U.S. Capitol, I would say falls short. Okay, I got one more in America, then one more abroad, and if you think of any others, you can fire them at me.
All right.
Let's go to San Francisco. Golden Gate Bridge, live up or fall short?
Oh, lives up. It is beautiful Art Deco masterpiece. And if
you are just Mr. Architecture today. Mr. Frank Lloyd Wright on the podcast. Oh, jeez Louise.
Frankly, all I've said is Art Deco. So if you ever want to sound architecturally savvy, just say the word Art Deco a bunch. Just make sure you're not around somebody who actually knows architecture, because then you'll be exposed as a fraud. But the Golden Gate Bridge is really beautiful, gives you a great view of the city as well, especially if you can get there on one of the rare sunny days in San Francisco. And the wind is really a great factor there, because it's just howling off the Pacific, and it tousles you.
Whipping wind.
But fresh air.
Yes, very fresh air. I love driving along it. It's similar to the Empire State Building. There's this kind of build-up and anticipation before you get on the bridge. Then, I'm on the bridge. And then it's like a mile long. Right?
Yeah,
it's super
huge.
long.
I've walked it.
Yeah, and walking it's fun, but as someone who's a little afraid of heights, I get a little nervous. You hear the cars roar by, and then the winds are kind of, tossing and turning you.
Right.
And then
you know what happens if you go off the edge of it.
Yes, it does not end well. So yes, it's a little dicey for me as someone who's afraid of heights. But let's go. I'd say it lives up, though. I agree, lives up.
Absolutely.
Let's go abroad. The Colosseum in Rome.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's what, thousands of years old.
It's pretty awesome. People will complain it's smaller than they think, and it's in disrepair. But of course, it's very, very old, thousands of years old. And the cool thing about Rome is it's like the Hollywood Boulevard thing. God, the Italians would just be rioting if they caught a whiff of this podcast and knew I compared Hollywood Boulevard to Italy. But just it is the one simple similarity is this old and new. This combination of old and new. Their history is much older, much more important in the course of historical events worldwide, as opposed to, say, the El Capitan Theater. But, when you see the Trevi Fountain, the Colosseum, any of these things, Pantheon, it is pretty incredible when it's mixed in with a modern city. And I really do think the Colosseum lives up to it. I will say, though, I didn't see any cats. They always talk about the cats at the Colosseum. I don't remember seeing any cats. I don't think you and I were there at the same time.
In the catacombs.
That's why they're called catacombs, because there's cats in them. Oh, yes. I think I remember that.
That's
yes,
right.
Yes.
I think that's you're hitting on something that I think is a critical difference. A lot of these features of these great cities in America, even though they're, a few hundred years old, some of them, one of the things that America really lacks is this deep, ancient human history.
Right.
But the one that I'll throw at you that I do think lives up to it, and it gives you that sort of ancient feel, Yosemite Valley.
Yeah, so it lives up big time. Yeah, big time. We're speaking of El Capitan, when you see El Capitan and you go in any of the rivers or the creeks and, feel that fresh water. Now, I haven't been in a few years, and my understanding is it's usually very crowded and difficult to even drive through the park. But when we were growing up, you could get in there okay. And yeah, it's quite magisterial. It's something to behold, certainly. As impressive, at least, as Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, certainly. I think the scale of Yosemite Valley is what really blows my mind. These granite cliffs are so much huger than you could ever imagine any natural face being. And yeah, when you're there, you feel small and you feel the full majesty of nature. And I don't believe that you've been to this place. I myself took a train trip around America, and I stopped at
May I guess what you're going to say? Is it the Grand Canyon?
No, it is not.
Have you seen the Grand Canyon?
I have not
or no?
seen
I
the
have
Grand
not. Have you, Will? Have you seen the Grand? Yeah, neither have I. I would love to see the Grand Canyon. Sorry, I interrupted you. What'd you see?
I went to the place that I was most impressed by on my trip around America was New Orleans, just in general. I would say that New Orleans really lives up to the hype.
We're looking kind of for a tourist.
All right,
Bourbon
Street.
There we
yes,
go.
Bourbon Street. Definitely a
go.
little bit more touristy, but if you're looking for like a party atmosphere, and you also feel it's very one of a kind. There's, it's a city that has the great French influence. There's still the feel of the jazz and the architecture. The architecture, the wrought iron facades, and the colonial style of the
fleur-de-lis motifs. Yes, of course.
Yeah, so I give the hats off to good old New Orleans.
Very cool, very cool. Well, buddy, that it?
Yeah.
Let's call it. Please subscribe, comment, and leave a rating. Send questions, comments, or big idea suggestions to our business email, flynnbrospod@gmail.com. You could drop in some, tourist places if you think they live up or fall short. Please let us know. Please. We're not the most well-traveled guys in the world. Sure, we've been to the Colosseum. Sure, we've been to Hollywood Boulevard, but we haven't been everywhere in the world.
Regale us
please.
with tales of your travels.
Please. Thank you to our producer, wine lover and Francophile Will Slade, and we'll see you next time on the Flynn Bros podcast. Take care, buddy.
Buddy, you take care.